Whether former President Donald Trump will jump into the 2024 presidential race is still an open question. According to a new article in the conservative-leaning Washington Examiner, top Republicans are worried that he might enter the race before this year's midterms. They're concerned that a Trump run this early might rev up turnout among Democrats. So for more, let's bring in David Drucker. David is senior political correspondent for the Washington Examiner and the author of In Trump's Shadow, The Battle for 2024 and the Future of the GOP. Hey there, David. So good to see you. Thanks so much for being here, and perfect timing to talk with this book because of everything going on. As you know from covering Trump for a while, playing coy about whether or not he'll run for office has been kind of classic Trump. For example, listen to what he said at CPAC last year.
With your help, we will take back the House, we will win the Senate, and then a Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House. And I wonder who that will be. I wonder who that will be. Who will that be? I wonder.
I wonder who that'll be. Well, I mean, are there any foreseeable issues that you see for Trump to mobilize campaign staff? And is he able to tap into this kind of massive election war chest that he's amassed since the election?
Yeah, Caitlin, it's a really fascinating question. I mean, the thing about it is no other Republican or Democrat would think of announcing a campaign. There would not even be speculation about announcing a campaign before midterm elections, especially midterm elections where their party was positioned for major gains and a takeover of the House and Senate and possibly state houses and governor's mansions across the country. They'd want to keep all eyes on that effort, all investments into that effort, and they wouldn't want to be a distraction. And Donald Trump is very polarizing, so as much trouble as President Biden is having, as low of an opinion as voters have of him right now, President Trump launching a campaign in the middle of this midterm election cycle is not what Republicans want to see, because they want all eyes on Biden. They want to focus on that, and they do not want to dilute the message. I tend to think, Caitlin, that while I always believe the speculation, because you can never discount this idea, as you mentioned, that Donald Trump is not going to do the thing that nobody else would do, that he's not in a hurry, or any more of a hurry than he needs to be, to file financial disclosure with the Federal Election Commission, to disengage from his super PAC and not be able to raise money directly and coordinate directly with his super PAC, to have to rely on all of those hard dollars, meaning the FEC limits that say how much you can raise, that prohibit you from coordinating with outside groups that are supporting you. And I think the longer that Trump can do all of that and continue to rake in dough, and that's what he's been doing for the past couple of years, I think the happier he will be and the more likely he is to do that. The only caveat here is he does seem, I don't know if the word is nervous, but he doesn't like it when there is a suggestion that voters might consider other Republicans other than him, and the idea of boxing them out, I'm sure, is on his mind.
That's fascinating. And I mean, one way, obviously, to raise money is to say, I'm thinking about running for president again. I mean, one person who wants to be very focused on the midterms right now is Rick Scott, who, of course, is the National Republican Senatorial Chairman. He needs to get Republicans elected to take over the majority. I attended a breakfast with him earlier today, a reporters roundtable, and he said that he talks to Trump every couple of weeks, and he expects him to run. I'm wondering, what else may be factoring into this decision from Trump? And do you get the sense that there are, Republicans running for office right now who would like the attention to be on them and not so much on him?
Well, look, I think Trump wants everybody to bend the knee. I think he wants to be the biggest dog in the party. And anything he can do to perpetuate that, for all of the reasons we understand. There are some political considerations. There are just personal considerations, because that's how he likes it. When I interviewed him for In Trump's Shadow, I asked him if there was anybody, should he decide not to run, to which, he responded, "Why do you think I'm not going to run?" I said, "I didn't say you're not going to run." But when I asked him, in case you don't, who else can do what you do? He didn't want any part of that. He didn't want to talk about his kids. He didn't want to talk about Republicans that he actually does like. He said, nobody can do what I do. And he wants to preserve that image as long as possible for a whole host of reasons. I think for Republicans who are planning to run for president anyway, and Senator Scott could be one of them, Mike Pompeo is another, Vice President Mike Pence is yet another, the best thing you can do is just talk as though you assume Trump is running, even if you think he might not. And he's hinting that he's going to run, so it's not going to be a surprise if he does. But even if you secretly think to yourself, this guy's too old, he's not going to run, the best way to keep him out, to keep him off your back, is just to say, he's the biggest dog in the room. Yeah, I totally expect him to run, and I'm not getting in the way of that. There'll be plenty of time for that later. None of these other Republicans are going to do anything major before the midterm elections. They actually want Republican majorities in Congress. They care about a lot of these policies, and they're hoping to earn chits with voters by doing the work to get Republicans elected. And by the way, if they can earn those chits by traveling to New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina, Wisconsin, Ohio, well, they're already doing that, so it's a twofer.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so interesting to see kind of who these candidates are campaigning for and where. Certainly. I want to get a little bit more into that because in your article for the Washington Examiner, as I mentioned, you write that Republican strategists are concerned about Trump announcing before the midterms. What reasons did they give you about why they're worried about it?
Yeah, and Caitlin, this is an important point here. They didn't say they necessarily care that Trump runs or not runs. They're not necessarily scared of him running, although many of them would prefer a fresh face as the nominee in 2024. Their issue is timing. Biden is on the ropes. Inflation is the biggest issue. Democrats are demoralized. Maybe not Democrats everywhere, not Democrats in Congress necessarily, but if you look at polling, Democratic enthusiasm is down. Republicans have won big majorities in the past when they were losing the congressional generic ballot by a little. Here they're actually winning the congressional generic ballot by a little. So they feel like they have the wind at their back, and there's no need to inject Trump, who could galvanize Democratic turnout, give voters a way to look at this election as a choice rather than a referendum on Democratic rule in Washington. And there's just no need for any of that.
Very interesting. David Drucker, thank you. It's always fun to talk about politics with you, even though 2024 seems pretty far away. It's not really, since we see everybody on the trail. Thanks so much for your reporting and for being here.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's good to see you.